Hello and welcome to this chess tactics puzzles video. Today I have 5 chess puzzles for you to solve, and they alternate between white and black to move first. So in this first puzzle, it's white to move. What would you do in this position to win as white? What is the best move for white here? So pause the video if you need more time to think. Also remember that studying chess tactics and improving your chess tactics is one of the fastest ways to improve at chess. And many people starting out in chess, they lose most of their games due to tactical errors in the beginning, the middle game, and the end game. So study those tactics. All right, let's look at the answer here for white. The evaluation is white is winning here, and it looks like the move that puts white in the lead here is d5. And so here, this d5 move, it pulls the queen away and right now white would like to move his queen to h6 here and threaten a mate on g7. But if the queen moves immediately, then the rook and queen combo could just capture here. So that's back before this d5 move. So right now, the queen and rook could just capture this. So the queen, if the queen moved h6, the pawn would be captured before she could deliver mate here on g7. But this is an interesting little tactical pattern. Anytime you have a gap in the defenses of your opponent and you have a pawn pushed up here guarding the g7 square, if you can get your queen in here and threaten a mate on g7, try to do that. All right, so d5, attacking the queen. So it looks like the best move would be queen takes d5, but then after queen to h6, threatening mate in 1, black would be forced to capture here. And then rook takes f6 would put white in the lead in material here. But black does have some counterplay. The computer recommends queen to d1, check. And then after king to f2, now we have queen to c2, check. And here the computer recommends king to g1 as being best. But after check again, king to g2. It's pretty tricky here because white's king is a little bit open. And, you know, if white can consolidate, white should be winning, especially if he can repel these checks by the queen. So after queen to d2 check, let's see. Computer still recommends king to g1. Well, I will leave the rest of this game here for you to check out if you want to look at it further. White does have the advantage of this extra rook, but white will have to figure out a way to consolidate and stop these checks by the black queen. All right, let's move on to the next problem. All right, so problem number 2, and I probably just showed you the answer there by accident. Sorry about that. And we'll flip the board here. It's black's turn to move. So what does black do in this position? All right, take time to figure that out. If you didn't already see the answer, sorry about that. I forgot to cover up the or hide the lines here. All right, pause if you have to. If not, we will take a look here. So a mate in 3. How does black do that? All right, so f5 here is the move. And looks like that is the best move. And so white has 2 options here: to capture en passant. If not, if black tries to run to the only square possible, king to h4, well then we just have queen to h1 mate. But after f5, if white uses en passant to capture here on f6, then we have queen to f5 check, and the king is forced to go to h4, and then we have h5 mate here, where the queen cuts off the escape, and this pawn blocks white's king from escaping as well. All right, now let me make sure I turn off these lines, and we'll flip this board back around. As the next position, it will be white to move here. Let's see. All right, so white to move. Okay, white to move here. And what do you think white should do in this position? And there's more than one way that white could win, but what is the quickest and fastest way for white to win in this position? If we look at the material, we see that it is even, but black is on the defensive here. Although he has these 2 pawns that are threatening to push forward and possibly promote. So what can white do to quickly end this game? All right, pause the video if you need to. If not, let's take a look. Let's see here. So we have a mate in 3. All right, kind of a surprising move, bishop to b6. And so the threat here is just bishop to a7 with a mate. And so if the bishop were to be captured, well then the king could capture, and now the next move here would be mate with this c pawn pushing forward as the king is trapped up here. So even if this pawn promotes, it will be too late because c7 will deliver mate. All right, so if we go back to the beginning, and so we know that black cannot capture this bishop. And another possibility, well, there's not many possibilities here. If the bishop moves away, then we just have this, excuse me, all right, here, let's do this. Bishop to, let's see what the computer recommends. Bishop to h2. Then we have c7, bishop takes c7, and then mate here. So that is an alternate interesting mate as well. And we'll go back at the beginning here and see if there's anything else. So bishop to b6. Let's see. So we know if the bishop moves away, this pawn will push forward anyway. And I think you get the point of this one. So the bishop is threatening to mate here. If the the bishop moves away, the pawn will push forward and mate will be delivered anyway. Let's see here. And so there is another example of that. All right, on to the next problem. I hope you found that. That might have been a little bit trickier as it was an unusual move. Let me turn off the lines. All right, so now we have black to move in this next example. All right, so this fourth problem, black to move. Let me flip the board for you. Okay, what does black do in this position? And this one's a little trickier, so pause the video if you need to. If not, let's take a look here. So the evaluation is black is definitely winning here. And we have different possible ways for black to take the lead here. But if we notice in these combinations, there's a theme of bishop to d3. So that is the best move, bishop to d3 here. And then it looks like rook to e2 would be the best move going forward here. But we'll take a look at what would happen if this were to be captured. So if the bishop were to capture, well then we have queen to e3, check, and the rook could block, but then we have queen captures and king to h1, but then queen to e1, block, and mate. So that is one example of how the mate could play out. So if we go back to the beginning, because this one is a little trickier, bishop to d3. So we looked at the bishop capturing. Now, what if the rook were to capture? Well, then it's a little bit easier. Queen to f2, check. The king is forced to move, and then we have a mate here. All right, so back to the beginning one more time. All right, so bishop to d3. The computer recommends rook to e2 to avoid mate. But then, now, the computer recommends queen capturing on c1, which is pretty interesting. And then rook to b1. Yeah, these are starting to look like some crazy computer moves. Queen takes b1. And now queen to e7. And queen to c1. Yeah, this is crazy. Queen to c1. All right, anyway, this is really complicated stuff here. But if we look at the material, white is ahead in material and should have an advantage here. This rook can't move, or there will be a mate here. So black could just capture this rook, and then the bishop could not recapture. So anyway, the game may continue with, let's see, capture, and now, let's see, queen to f6 to protect here. And let's see, capture there. Queen to f2. F2, it looks like there would just be a capture there, so that doesn't make too much sense. Let's go back, although the computer says that's the best move. Anyway, you get the point in this position. If you want to look at it further, set it up, or go back over the video, pause it. But white would be winning in this position. And if we go back to the beginning, the bishop to d3 move was the one to find. All right, let's take a look at the final problem, number 5 here. And it's starting to get dark. I better wrap up this video before we run out of light here. All right, let's see. Okay, So this position, white to move. What should white do here to gain the upper hand? And we look at the material, it looks like it's even. 3 minor pieces on each side. 6 pawns, rooks and queens are even. All right, white to move. How does white gain an advantage? Once again, pause the video if you have to, but let's take a look. All right, so white is definitely ahead in this, and here we go. So there are different ways for white to keep an advantage, but rook to h4 is the best move. So capture, and then once the queen recaptures, we have queen capturing the other rook up here, and then after the king captures, we have knight to g6, a fork of the king and the queen here, and white would be ahead in this position. So after king to f7, then we have knight captures, and in this position, white should be winning here. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed these 5 tactical chess puzzles and were able to solve those. And I apologize if I dug too deep on some sideline that I was looking at, because the computer brings up some interesting things when you go over some of these tactical problems. And I would recommend you do that yourself. If you have any tactics in your games, take a look at them yourself. And then if you want to explore them further and you have the opportunity, put them into a computer and analyze them. But remember, regular tactics study is an easy way to improve your chess game and help you play better. All right, thank you everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Have a great day.